The reason why I love these species is because they're such a beautiful, iconic, mischievous species found nowhere else in the world.
I think anybody who's dealt with black cockatoos knows how iconic they are. We're used to hearing the Carnaby's cockatoos in particular in the wild. I grew up in Perth, so I remember the big flocks of black cockatoos going out overhead and getting very excited to see them because they were so beautiful and they fly in such an amazing way and they make such amazing sounds.
There are 3 species of black cockatoos that are found nowhere else in the world except for the southwest forests of Australia. These are the Borden's cockatoo, the Carnaby's cockatoo and the forest red-tailed black cockatoo. Some of the challenges that black cockatoos are facing in the wild is habitat loss and habitat fragmentation, particularly out in the wheat belt and in their breeding areas. Competition for hollows with other species such as galahs and corellas and also feral bees. And also their conflict with people, so that includes vehicle collisions, poaching and getting shot in the wild.
Well, Perth Zoo's been working for well over a decade now with Parks and Wildlife to facilitate the rescue and rehabilitation of endangered black cockatoos in WA. So the birds are very vulnerable to being hit by cars. We also have occasional gunshot injuries that occur. Sometimes illness will cause them to be unable to cope in the wild, and any of those factors can result in them being presented here for examination to see what the problem is. When they first come to the zoo, we give them a quick check over, find out what's wrong with them, and then we put them through a hospitalisation period for whatever they need to be treated for. And then after they leave here, they go to a rehabilitation facility where they regain their strength, regain their weight. In the case of juveniles, sometimes they have to learn their foraging techniques, and then from there they're released to the wild in groups.
On the day of the release, wildlife officers attend one of the 3 rehabilitation centres for black cockatoos, which include Jamari, Native Animal Rescue and Karrakin. And we flight test each bird to make sure they're of perfect fitness to be released back into the wild, and to also make sure there's no outstanding injuries that might be apparent. We take a DNA sample from each bird, and we also attach a uniquely numbered leg band to every cockatoo that's going to be released. Using these leg bands is an opportunity for members of the public and all our bird watchers out there to contact the department if they see these birds with the bands, and if you have a good camera lens, to photograph the numbers, because it's so important for us to monitor how these birds are thriving once they're back out into the wild. The other way that we monitor black cockatoos post-release is by incorporating research projects such as our collaboration with Murdoch University and Perth Zoo. And we do this by releasing birds with GPS and satellite transmitters.
Preliminary data is very encouraging. What it's shown is that birds that are released back into the wild are integrating normally with larger flocks. They're also showing mating behaviour and breeding behaviour and foraging in a normal way and maintaining their weight. And we've been able to follow some of these birds for months and years, so that's very exciting. I've always felt a real affinity with them and always wanted them to be around, and so to be able to actually make a difference to how the populations go in the wild by getting these birds out there and functioning again is a real privilege.
The whole black cockatoo rehabilitation process is about ultimately getting these birds back out into the wild. Every cockatoo that comes into care is essentially lost to the wild. They are a threatened species, and each bird, especially adults and breeding birds that we can get back out into the wild, is just so exciting for the conservation of an endangered species.